Hey, this is Dave T1963 from saddlehunter.com, and I've been getting a lot of questions on how I modify my Helium sticks. So I thought I'd go over, because it's been 2.5 years since I made the first video, and I've made some changes to it. The first thing I did is I now cut my sticks to where they're 23 inches between the bolts. That is simply so I get 22 inches per step, because that, even with bulky clothes, that's just what I prefer. I still use the Lone Wolf Versa button on my sticks. What I've done is I take a spade bit and I recess the bolt to where that's flat, as you can see. I'm still using the Amsteel Blue 1/4 inch rope. I am looking at using some of the press-it cord, simply because this does fray, and we seem to have a lot of rough bark trees down here in Texas, and it does make some noise at times setting up, so I'm looking at using the cordage. The other modification that's new for the last couple years is I've taken some of that exercise foam pad and I cut little squares and I taped it onto the bottom of my sticks, and that helps with stacking, and I'll show that to you in a minute. And then I just simply painted them. I don't put stealth stripping and all that on my sticks. I don't think it's necessary if you take your time and careful. But let me show you how these stack together. It's a pretty simple way of doing it. But basically, once you wrap the ropes around the sticks, and I go over this in my other videos, you can look them up online. But basically what I do is, while it's sitting on the ground, and I have these labeled bottom, middle, and top, is I'll take, and the first thing I do is I seat this first tree bracket up against the bottom one. And then you can see this will come to rest directly on the Versa button. And then it also rests on the pad down here. And if you take your time, you're not gonna make hardly any noise. I've never spooked a deer in the morning. And then you can see this will sit against the Versa button and that pad. Now, one of the things I didn't mention, but I go over this in the first video, is I do stagger my Versa buttons. One word of caution: don't stagger them all the way up. If you get this first Versa button too high, it's prone to kick out on you. And I actually had that happen to me this year, and I was hanging for a little while until I was able to get a street tether on the rope or on the tree and pull myself up. So stagger one above, one here, and then one below, but keep it towards the middle of your stick. And how I attach these together is I use the bungees, and I go over this in the first video. I'll put one around here and one around here, and that holds these pretty firmly. Something else I did this year is I always used one stick and a foot aider to get me about 6.5 foot per stick. 6 to 6.5 foot, depending how far I want to stretch. But last year I had 2 decent bucks that I was after bust me, because we had a slight breeze and my foot aiders were moving in the wind, and it was enough movement that drew that buck's attention, and both those bucks' attention. They didn't like what they saw, and they just veered off course. They weren't spooked bad, but they did veer off course, and I didn't get a shot. So what I did this year, and you can thank Red Squirrel over at saddlehunter.com for posting this idea, but as I went to a longer foot loop this year. And how I use this is I will take this stick and I'll put it up about 6.5 foot, as high as I can reach on the tree, and I'll attach it. I will then take this aider and loop it over the 2 steps to where it's hanging on the tree bracket back here, okay? Then I fold down the bottom steps and I put this on the outside to where it's hanging about 4 inches away from the tree, and this tubing keeps it wide open. I then step up on this, step up to the first step. While I'm standing on the first step, I attach my lineman's belt. I then easily remove this from this stick, and I'll climb up to the top one. Just my lineman's belt. Then I'll put the next stick 6.5 foot over that. So that puts me at 13 foot right there. And I just repeat the process. Keep hanging it, step up to the first step, take it off, hang it around my neck, climb up to the next one. So with 3 sticks and stepping up into my platform, it is very easy for me to get to 20 foot easy without stretching much. Now, one thing I've seen guys do that I don't recommend is I've seen them attach their straps to the individual sticks out here, and I would not recommend that, simply because when you do that, if your foot was to slip off that tree, your bottom foot, you're going to put all the weight here on a step, and that could cause this stick to kick out. So I highly recommend that you don't put them on the steps. You just simply loop them over that top tree bracket. That puts the force of the weight downward right next to the tree, And trust me, these steps right here will keep it out far enough away from the tree, and then by taking this irrigation pipe and putting it out there, it keeps it wide open to where your foot, I mean, you can see there, it does not close up. So this is how I'm now climbing the tree. And like I said, if I want to get up to 30 foot, I'll just one stick it one time, maybe 2 times, and I can get well over 30 foot that way. The last thing I want to go over is I used to hand carry these sticks, but what I did for the last season is I simply took my Kelly pack and attached a little piece of paracord up to these top 2 D loops, okay? And I just tie it up while I'm not using it. And I also ran one through the bottom of my pack and made a bigger loop. And what I do now is once I put all 3 sticks together and they're bungeed together, I simply take these sticks and I put the loop through the top of my stick. Then I will take all 3 sticks and I'll twist them 1/4 turn to where these are now facing away from me. I will push these down, and then taking this top paracord, I will tie it right below this top or this bottom tree bracket. And when I do that, and of course this ain't going to be tight because I'm just throwing it on there, but that makes a very solid system for carrying your sticks to your stand, okay? And why I started doing this is I really like in the mornings, especially when it's dark and you're encountering vines and stuff, is my bow's in my left hand, so now I have one hand that's free to kind of clear away any brush. Or if I'm using my phone as a GPS, I can take a directional reading on my GPS so to kind of line me up, because I've gotten away from using a whole lot of tacks to mark my way in. I'm very secretive about where my spots are from a couple bad experiences I had a couple years ago posting a lot of my stand sites on a public forum, and I had a lot of company that year. So that's basically my Helium setup for the last year, and I'm going to stick with this. It works for me. I do want to throw something out there though. This is my system. There are plenty of options out there now. When I first started doing this, the Helium stick was one of the first 2-step lightweight sticks out there, and I modified them to give me that 22-inch per step step up, because there was so much wasted step with 16-inch steps. And I'm carrying this 3-foot long step that I almost get as long with this 2-step, and when you add the foot aider, I get farther for less weight. But I want to throw out there that Bowhunter 15 has come up with a great system where he took some of the aluminum tubing and actually used the CNC router to make his own steps that probably is the ideal stick. It's even lighter, just slightly lighter than these Helium sticks. So that's an option out there if you have access to that kind of equipment. And for those who don't, Dan Infalt over at the Hunting Beast is actually coming out with a set of new sticks that looks fantastic. The claimed weight is 1.4 pounds per stick with 2-step sticks. That's incredible. I don't think we're going to get any lighter than that unless we start looking at carbon or titanium. So that's another option that's out there. I use the Helium because that's what is available at the time I got into this, and it's just something I'm comfortable with. There's so many choices out there. One thing I will say is whatever system you go with, get it, modify it, make it work for you, and then practice with it. I use these sticks all year round. I'm constantly hanging cameras. I'm constantly prepping trees in new areas. I also practice a lot in June, July, August in the dark with my sticks, simply because I hunt a lot of mornings. Mornings are my preferred time. And I want to be able to set those sticks up with no light. Usually the moonlight's enough, or at the very maximum, I'll use a very, very dim red lens headlight, and I keep it focused downward so that I can unstack things and get things ready. But 99% of the time as I'm climbing the tree, I don't use any light, and I can do it by feel. And this is even going in blind on trees I've never climbed before. I take my time, and I've practiced this a lot, and I always carry pruners on my hip. So that's my modifications for the Helium stick. If you have any questions or comments about any of the gear or how it's put together or anything, you can leave them below and I'll try to get to them soon. I am going to make a post on what I carry in my pack and how I carry it. There was a post on saddlehunter.com where someone was asking, well, how do you pack things, to carry it in? I'm going to show you my total system with my stand, my minimalist saddle, which I used a Kestrel last year to hunt with from New Tribe, and that's an awesome saddle, especially for newbies. If you're wanting a saddle that is a hunting saddle and a fall restraint device all in one, man, I don't think you can beat the Kestrel. So I highly encourage people to check into that. I personally like to keep them separate. I like my saddle as a hunting tool, and then I have a very small 1 pound rock climbing harness that I use for my fall restraint, and I'll make a video to cover all that. But I'll also make a video on how I put all this together in my pack and how this whole entire system, including my platform, is about 13 pounds. And then the final video I want to make is I'm going to do a demonstration on how I use my platform again, because I made a couple videos. I don't know that I showed everything that I've learned, but I just want to show people how quiet and how little movement you can do and still get 360 shooting around a tree. I use the ring of steps. I used permanent steps when I could. I used the Amera steps. I've used gym steps. Walking around the tree has got me busted by mature bucks too many times. I hunt very thick cover, and usually by the time I get a good look at a deer, they're within 30-40 yards, and I'm sorry, trying to walk around a tree and reposition for a shot is a good way to get spotted. With my system, I can stay behind the tree and still get 360 shooting with either leaning either side of the tree, or if they come in behind me, doing a little footwork on the platform and rotating my body rather than trying to swing around a tree. So that video is coming. I'm a firm believer in these new platforms we're developing as just a better hunting tool. May not be easier than walking around a ring of steps. I don't know. To me it is. But from a hunting perspective and not getting busted by deer, pressured deer that are used to looking up in trees for people, you can't beat a platform. And I've thrown the challenge out there. I'll do a video comparison with anyone with a ring of steps to see who gets away with less movement and gets 360 shooting around the tree. Now, I don't hunt these big 48-inch trees. My trees are usually 12 to 14 inches around or across the diameter, which I think is the perfect type tree. And something else I do is I get up into a lot of branch trees. I don't like hunting on those telephone pole trees. So you're not walking around those trees with a ring of steps anyway. Not the way I hunt. I get up in the branches. But that video will come. Anyway, if you have any comments on the Helium sticks or even the foot aider and how that works, drop them in the comments below and I'll try to get to them. All right, good luck and good shooting.